Jesus said, "The kingdom of God is already among you. It's just not where you're looking." But let's be honest, the idea of a global revolution starting quietly at kitchen tables, it can sound hopelessly naive. Let's suppose, for the sake of argument, that God really is out there, healing people and changing things so quietly that rumors haven't reached the BBC. There's still no evidence this is happening at a large enough scale to change the world's trajectory. Cure some leopards, and an even more virulent strain of leprosy develops. Cast out a demon, and his buddy will find someone else to ride to Congress. Charities can work for decades to save 1 million from starvation. Yet one psychopath with a decent project manager can kill 3 times that many in a few years. We've seen this happen in recent history. Jesus' quiet revolution has had 2,000 years to build momentum, and most people still live in conditions that look more like Mordor than Rivendell. All of this is demonstrably true. This is why it's so important to hear the whole story that Jesus is telling. When Jesus claims that God is already active in unlooked for places, healing and freeing people, he doesn't say that slow and subtle and hidden are God's only action modes. Some of the benefits of God's good future are seeping into the present, but that doesn't mean that history is marching toward progress. Jesus doesn't claim that we'll eventually build up enough speed to escape the black hole of chaos currently swallowing the world. History will end in justice, but not because it's currently on a long curve in that direction. Not because enough hard work will eventually force its arc to bend. History will end in justice, according to Jesus, because God will step in and break its arc toward destruction. In the modern world, it's pretty rare to see one country take another over. But in the ancient world, it happened all the time. An invasion followed by sudden, total change of rule. Jesus' description of what's coming sounds a bit like that. All human beings currently live in a reality that early Christians called the kingdom of the world. It looks like many separate nations, but underground, the roots are all intertwined. It's really one regime marked by corruption and injustice. But a new kingdom is coming. Right now, King Jesus is laying the groundwork. He's sending out ambassadors, recruiting citizens, giving demonstrations of what's coming, all while being largely ignored by the powers that be. But one day the quiet phase will end. King Jesus will take the field and publicly claim what he's already won. He'll institute a new law of love and justice. Evil and injustice will be banished, along with anyone who insists on clinging to them. So why hasn't this already happened? Because King Jesus wants the day of his arrival to be a day of celebration for as many as possible. And right now, there are still many people who would lose more than they'd gain. I used to live in the American Northwest, where there's a lot of talk about the big one, a massive eruption of a fault line under the Pacific coast that scientists say is inevitable. I used to carry sneakers in my car for fear of ending up like that woman in Jurassic World who's forced to run from a T-Rex in stilettos. Neither earthquakes nor T-Rexes give much warning. When they hit, you're either ready or you're not. And Jesus says the next phase of God's global restoration plan will hit like an earthquake or a resurrected T-Rex. No one will see it coming. Everything will be its usual messy business right up until the moment the new regime starts. We've been circling the theme of preparation for a while now in Luke. New regimes mean a change in power structure. What used to put someone on top doesn't anymore. New kingdoms mean a different currency has value. Old systems and structures built on injustice come down. People who've demonstrated their loyalty and alignment with the new leader's values step into new roles. Jesus looks around and sees too many people primed for catastrophic losses, living in houses built on injustice that are doomed to collapse, building up stockpiles of wealth that are about to be worthless, spending their lives trying to prove their worth to people whose opinions won't matter, practicing entirely the wrong set of virtues. If this persists, the best case scenario is that many will enter the new regime with a lifetime of investments in ashes. At worst, then they'll end up swept away in the debris of a fallen house that they refuse to leave behind. I had a conversation once with someone who told me he found my life choices odd and not very sensible. But then he shrugged and said, "I guess whatever makes you happy." That was the moment I realized why we were talking past each other. Jesus says that a new world's coming on a day we least expect. I've decided to believe him. Practically, that means that my choices now are guided by a different timeline. My life, my health, my happiness, my sense of home are wagered on King Jesus. That's bound to look weird to someone not expecting regime change. It probably should. And King Jesus wants his inauguration day to be the best day of everyone's life. If he delays a little longer, it's to give more of us a chance to change our shoes and be ready to run with joy toward the sun, not limp in grief away from the ashes. Let's hear this in Jesus' own words in Luke 17, beginning in verse 22. Then Jesus said to his disciples, "The time is coming when you will long to see the day when the Son of Man returns, but you won't see it. People will tell you, 'Look, there's the Son of Man,' or 'Here he is,' but don't go out and follow them. For as the lightning flashes and lights up the sky from one end to the other, so it will be on the day when the Son of Man comes. But first the Son of Man must suffer terribly and be rejected by this generation. When the Son of Man returns, it will be like it was in Noah's day. In those days, people were enjoying banquets and parties and weddings right up until the time Noah entered the boat, and the flood came and destroyed them all. And the world will be like it was in the day of Lot. People went about their daily business, eating and drinking and buying and selling and farming and building, until the morning Lot left Sodom. Then fire and burning sulfur rained down from heaven and destroyed them all. Yes, it will be business as usual right up until the day the Son of Man is revealed. On that day, a person on the deck of the roof must not go down into the house to pack. A person out in the field must not return home. Remember what happened to Lot's wife. If you cling to your life, you will lose it. And if you let your life go, you will save it. That night, 2 people will be asleep in one bed. One will be taken and the other left. 2 women will be grinding flour together at the mill. One will be taken, the other left." "Where will this happen, Lord?" the disciples asked. Jesus replied, "Just as the gathering of vultures shows there's a carcass nearby, so these signs indicate the end is near." I'm Meghan Good, and this is Reading Jesus. If you'd like a discussion guide to aid you in your reflection or conversation, you can go to patreon.com/JesusCollectiveCommunity and look for the Luke 17 post. Thanks so much for joining me for a few minutes in Luke, and I'll see you next time.